Now let's do another one. Now let's say we're going to go to the Lydian. So notice I have my collection of notes, 7 notes, but now I'm going to be looking and measuring from the Lydian. Now under normal context, what do? They say I need to make the Lydian the 1, and then we measure from the Lydian, and we still use these intervals, and these intervals are based on the major scale. So I would say something like if I go 2 notes up, I would call that a third, right? They're going to call that a third going up. I don't want to call it a third because that implies that this is the 1, and they would call it a major third as well, which is also confusing because I want to measure from this area. I don't need to make another scale in order to do that in the first place. And if I did make another scale, it wouldn't be the major scale. It would be a major type scale, which still has a major third in it, but the scale would actually be a Lydian scale. It would have the same notes in it. It's not going to have all the same intervals as the major scale. That's why this system gets really confusing fast, even though you would think that these like little tweaks or errors, in my opinion, are not a big deal. They are a big deal because they're on the foundation floor of what you're building on. It's like, oh, it's only a little error that we put at the bottom of the pyramid for the Egyptian pyramid. It's like, well, yeah, that error is going to be a problem once you start building like off of the thing, right? Because this is the fundamental piece. This is the cornerstone, okay? This is the lodestone. You can't mess up the lodestone, you know? That's what I'm talking about. Anyway, so now we're going to go, so now let's say we're on the Y and we're going Y. So we're going Y, which I would call a 4-4 modal range. And that's going to be a 0 node away from the Y node at 0 modal half steps. So if I'm on the Y, I don't need to make it the 1. Over here, we'd have to. It would be called a 0 node away perfect first, meaning now you've made the Y the 1. But really, you don't need to do that. So if I see that term, I don't need to say that's the 1. I'm just going to say, oh, a perfect first from that place just means that I didn't move anywhere from that node. And so but I'd rather call it a 0 node away from that node, the Lydian node, the 4 node, and it's 0 modal half steps. Let's go at the next one, which makes a little bit more sense. That's in the key, so we can see some actual movement happening. It's a YX modal range. So now I'm going from Y to X. So Y to X. So normally, again, they would say that's a 2 node away major second. But I don't want to call it a 2 node away major second because that implies I have to make that the 1. And I don't want to make it the 1. And it would imply that this is a major scale. And it's not a major scale if I'm using the same 7 notes. It's a Lydian scale, which is different than the major scale. So I'd like to just say, let's just measure from there, the place where we're at. The distance is always the same. We're just going around the block. So it's going to be a 2 node away from the Lydian mode, first modal half step, which would be the second scale degree. So it's just like over here, the 2 and the 2 are important. The M isn't important if you know the 2, right? Because it's a 2 node away second scale degree, which would be the first modal half step. The distance is the important point because I can say logically, okay, that distance fits in both the major scale as well as the Lydian scale. It's the distance that fits. The major doesn't fit. The major makes me feel like I'm in the major scale, right? So in other words, if I'm on the Lydian and I go up to 1, 2, lands me on the Mixolydian continent. If I'm on the Lydian and I go up, it takes me 1 modal half step here, which would mean it's the second scale degree if I made that the 1. Right, if that's the 1, now this would be the 1 and then the 2. See how it forces me to make that the 1? I don't want to make that the 1. That makes me change my map. Okay, so that's the problem. All right, so then we're going to say, what if I go from a YA modal range? Then we're going to say that could be a 4-6 modal range. So now we're on the Y, going to A. This is where we are in the map quest. I don't need to make it the 1. I don't need a new map quest. I'm just going to be like, yeah, I'm on Y. I'm going from that look. I'm on Zelda. I was on the 1 before, whatever. Now I'm going the Y to the A. I already have that map quest. I already have that Google map. So what's going to be the distance? It's going to be a 4 node away from the Lydian node, second modal half step, which would be the 3rd scale degree. So again, over here, we would normally call that a 4-note away major third, which means it would be the second modal half step forward. The scale degree is making me think it's the first, right? But I don't need to. I just need to see that as a distance. This doesn't tell you the node that we are on. We have to identify the node that we are on and then apply this as just simply a distance term. See, so if I'm on if I'm on the Y and I go up 4 notes, Y up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, it gets me to the Aeolian node. If I'm on the Lydian note here in our collection of 7 notes, and I go up 1, 2 modal half steps, I get to the Aeolian node. If I make this the 1 and I measure from that, it would be 1, 2, 3 scale degrees. That's why the modes get messy, because you're forcing me to make a scale out of that. And then you start to think it's a major scale because it has the same interval for the third as the major scale has distance-wise to get to the third, but it's not the same because you're in the Lydian scale, not the major scale. So it would be better just to measure from that node is the idea. So then we're going to say, okay, what if I go from a YN modal range? Y Lydian to the N modal range, distance-wise. So that would be a YN modal range or a 4-7 modal range. What's the distance? The distance is a 6-note away from the Lydian node, third modal half step, which would be the 4th scale degree. So that would be equivalent then to now notice this is the weird one, because the 6-note away, as we saw, they made the 7 the perfect 5th, and then they dropped it down to the 6, so we get this diminished 5th instead of a minor 5th kind of thing. Also, this is where the Lydian is different than the major. So you can see the major doesn't have this in it because you have the 0.5. The Lydian does. So the Lydian has this funny, like very tensiony interval of the 6-note away tritone, which is the one that we'd have to say is an augmented 4th or a diminished 5th, depending on where it lands. And so in this case, it would be the 3rd modal half step up, which would be a 4th of the Lydian scale. So in other words, if I went from the Lydian and I counted up by 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we land on the Locrian. If I'm on the Lydian and I go up 3, 1, 2, 3, there's the 3rd modal half step to get to the Locrian. If I made that the 1 and I start measuring as from there, scale degrees, 1, 2, 3, 4, it would be the 4th, not the 5th, because that's, again, the different interval for the Lydian. So that's the one that we would see that is weird. I should see it's weird. How? Because the 6 is weird. The fact that there's a 6-note away distance that lands you on a continent is weird. That's not the way it is in the major scale, and we're going to know just tone-wise that that's the tensiony sound. I don't need to know it's a diminished 5th for the tensiony sound. The 5th might help, but I need to know it's a 6th. Anytime you have a 6-note away distance, that's the thing that should trigger that. Oh, you're like, oh, that's the tensiony sound. All right, so then we have a YI distance. So if I'm on the Y, we're going from the Y not up to this I, Y down, because we're always going clockwise. So that's going to be a Y. We'll go counterclockwise later, but right now we're going clockwise. YI modal range would be a 4-1 modal range. And what's the distance between a Y and an I? It's always the same. It's a 7-note away from the Lydian. It's a 4th modal half step, which would be the 5th scale degree. So we can see over here, it would be a 7-note away, perfect 5th. It's the 7, though, that should tell you the quality, not so much the perfect. A 7/5 scale degree or 7/4 modal half steps is the thing that should give you the quality. The perfect's not really adding anything if you know the distance, which is what you want to focus on 7 notes away. So if I'm on the Lydian and I go up 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we get to the Ionian. If I'm on the Lydian here and I go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, we get to the Ionian. If I make that the 1, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th scale degree. But I don't want to make that the 1. Why? Because it's stupid to make it the 1. It's stupid, okay? All right. Now you're getting, there's no need for personal attack. No, there is a need for personal attacks. They did that they're gaslighting me on purpose. All right, what about a YD modal range or a 4-2 modal range? So we're going from the location Y to the Dorian. I'm not going up to the Dorian. I could, or backwards to the Dorian. I'm going forwards clockwise to Dorian. So that's going to be a 9-note away Lydian 5th modal half step, which would be the 6th scale degree. So we would normally call that a 9-note away major 6, which means it would be the 5th modal half step forward. The 9-note away 6th scale degree or 5th modal half step forward is the important thing, not the major. The 9 should tell you that it's in the major, and then that's the thing you want to compare. You don't want to compare the little letter of major versus non-major. You want to compare the distance. The distance. So we're going to say if we're on the Y and we go up 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, we get to the Dorian. And if we're on the Lydian here and we go up 5 modal half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we get to the Dorian. If we make the Y the 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it would be the 6th scale degree. All right, let's do the last one. And well, I'll just pull this one over here for now. So now we're going to go an 11-note away Ionian 6th. An 11-note away Ionian, no, that's not right. I'm on a YP modal range, which is a 4-3 modal range. So this is going to be a Y, not backwards to P, not counterclockwise, but clockwise to P. So P is going to be up here. What's the distance? It's an 11-note away Lydian from the Lydian node 6th modal half step, which would be the 7th scale degree. We would normally call that 11-note away major 7. The major is not helpful if you know the distance. 11-note away 7th scale degree, which would be the 6th modal half step from whatever point that we happen to be measuring from. In this case, that being the Lydian node. So if we're on the Lydian node and I go up 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lands me on the continent of the Phrygian, right? And if I'm on the Lydian node here and I go up 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, lands me on the Phrygian. If I make the Lydian the 1, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That means it would be the 7th scale degree. All right, let's do so notice that all of these are the same for the major, except that weird 6th right here. That's why this is a major mode, because it has a major 3rd in it, a 4-note away 3rd, which is the 2nd modal half step. But it's not exactly the same because it has that weird 4th in it, or 3rd modal half step. All right. So now let's go. Let's say we check this out. And look at the ones that are in between now. So if we go to the ones in between, we have a YY plus, which is a 4 to a 4.5 modal range. So that's going to be a 1 note up from the Lydian node 0.5 modal half step, which you would think would be 1.5 scale degree, but they actually call it a 2nd scale degree. So a 1 note away minor 2nd, because it's not in the major. So that means that if I was on the Lydian and I went up 1, lands me in the ocean. If I'm on the Lydian and I go up 0.5, I'm in between Lydian and the Mixolydian. So you would think that I would call that the 1, if I make that the 1, it would be a 1.5 scale degree. But they don't use 1.5 scale degree. They still call it the 2nd scale degree, but then say something like it's a minor or diminished to indicate that it's in between, that it's landing you in the ocean if you're looking at it from the perspective of the major scale. All right, so then we're going to look at this one. This is going to be a YX plus, or a 4.5 modal range. Distance is going to be a 3-note away from the Lydian node 1.5 modal half step, which would be a 2.5 scale degree, but they just rounded up to a 3rd, but say it's a flat 3rd, or in other words, a minor 3rd from the perspective of a major scale.